Now I want to ask you a technical wrestling question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, in a rear naked chokehold, nobody's naked. Why is it called a rear naked chokehold? that's technical stuff. I want to get deep into the sport here.
I'm going to tell you something here right now that I'm very embarrassed about is I don't know. I don't know why they added naked. Why not just be a rear choke?
With authority. Aloha and welcome to a special quarantine stay-at-home edition of the With Authority podcast. We're social distancing. Casey Pratt, how far are you away from me right now?
Mandated 6 feet. I think we've followed that rule.
And we are Skyping our special guest, Daniel Cormier, MMA Legend. Now, I want to start here. First of all, happy birthday. We're taping this on your birthday.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate you guys having me.
No.
I'm not doing much. It's probably the hottest birthday I've ever had.
So I want to go down your resume for some people who are not familiar. Actually, I could do 2 hours just on your life before you even said a word, but we'll just start with some simple things here. You've been a champion in every promotion that you've ever worked in. UFC heavyweight champ, UFC light heavyweight champ, Strikeforce heavyweight champ, Extreme MMA heavyweight champ, 2018 Fighter of the Year, ESPN TV commentator, Gilroy High Wrestling coach. I mean, we go on and on and on. I'm not sure if people understand. We have been trying to book you for months and months and months, and it took a quarantine for us to finally get you.
I've been, it's difficult whenever you have the fight schedule, and then when I don't have the fights, I'm with the wrestling team and also juggling my family stuff, my wife and my son's football, my daughter's gymnastics, my son's wrestling, and then the team wrestling. It was just, it's just madness, man. And I didn't realize how busy I am until now, where I have to sit back and not do anything.
Well, there was some other speculation about why this took so long. And the word kind of filtered out to me that my boy Kung Lee might have told you this was the reason you didn't want to be in here and you waited and did this from your home in the South Bay. That you might have heard about that.
I had to make sure I wasn't within range of your dangerous striking technical skill, your punches and kicks. I had to make sure I stayed a safe distance. And right now I feel like the 80 miles that separate us is enough.
I'm glad you finally admitted it, because I was telling people in our newsroom, he don't want none. He doesn't want it. And that's why it took so long. And now at least we know.
I try to say that I'm a fairly smart guy, and staying away from you seemed like the right thing to do. And I feel safe now.
Don't worry. He actually injured himself in the process of that hyperbole that he just spit out. So don't even stress on that, man. What are you doing right now to keep yourself in shape, man? I mean, you're a professional athlete. We are not. So how critical is it to try to balance the work you need to do on yourself with what you have to do homeschooling-wise and just taking care of the family? This is crazy times.
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm in our office, and it's become my kids' classroom. We have a flag that we put up every morning for them to do the Pledge of Allegiance. We have the desk in the back for my son. We have the desk right here for my daughter. And we're just trying to keep some normalcy, try to make them start at 8:30 with their lessons and go until an hour, and then give them a break and bring them back. And they get done pretty quickly. And then we have PE. We'll play basketball out front, or I put them through some workouts. In my garage, I have a gym, so I have a wrestling mat, and I got a treadmill. I have an Echelon bike, so we got equipment to work out. You just put that to use.
Now, I've been doing the exact same thing, minus having a gym in my garage, but man, homeschooling, is so much harder than I thought it would be. I mean, what's like the biggest challenge you've had? And also on the flip side too, like how amazing is it to kind of see that side of your kids that you usually don't get to see with the studious stuff?
You know, my kids go to a fantastic school, and they're so well trained when they're doing their academics that it hasn't been very hard for my wife and I. But I think the most surprising is watching them do their work, right? I'm telling them to sit down, right? Because when I was a kid, like I had to sit to do my work. But at my kids' school, they allow them to stand. And so the kids are like, no, we're allowed to stand as long as we're next to our desks and we're writing and everything. So I thought that was very interesting to me because that was not an option for me when I was a kid. And I always felt like I had ants in my pants. Like I wanted to be up and moving and fidgeting. And my son is the same way. My daughter's the same way. So when they start to do their work and it gets a little long, they just get up and they stand right next to the desk and they still do their work. And the first time I'm like, sit down. They're like, no, we are allowed to stand as long as, you know, we don't interrupt anybody. And I go, so if I go to your class, I'll see, because my son only has 9 kids in his class. My daughter has like 16. I'm like, I will see 16 kids standing. And Marquita was like, yeah, if everybody wants to stand at that time, we're allowed to do that.
Interesting. So I want to go a little bit deeper on this because for people that know your personal backstory, and I don't want to get too heavy here, but you've dealt with profound loss of family members. You've dealt with serious disappointment in your career at times and overcome so much. So you know firsthand, more than most people, what it's like to handle adversity and the mindset that is required in uncertain times. How do you deal with this situation when we're fighting an invisible foe?
You know, honestly, I feel like in everything that I've encountered, I think this is the most worrisome because of what you said. It's something you can't see daily, right? You can't gauge. It's hard for me to gauge the disappointment. Everything that had happened to me before, it was like right in my face, you know, when I lost my daughter and my father now and all the professional loss, it was like right in my face, right? I knew what I was dealing with. In this sense, I don't really know, and I don't think any of us do. And I think it's that uncertainty that makes it so difficult. You know, you try to be very aware of your surroundings, take care of the ones that you can, which for me is the 3, Selena, Daniel, and Marquita, and just constantly checking on my mom. I mean, I think that's probably the scariest thing for me is making sure that my mom back in Louisiana is being protected from contracting this thing that is so dangerous for the elderly. So yeah, it's weird, man. And I gotta be honest, I've never watched. It's like I was talking to my business partner in the barbershop, and he told me, he goes, turn off the news, right? Because he goes, it scares you. He's like, it's like you're watching the scariest movie of all time. And when you watch those, you usually turn it off. He goes, you're not doing that with the news. He goes, stop watching so much news. It's only scaring you, but I need to know, you know. But I thought that analogy was probably the most spot on thing that I've ever heard. You know, I start watching a horror movie, I turn it off. It gets too much. I can't turn off the news because I need to know.
Well, since I do the news every day, in addition to the sports, I just watch me, okay? If that's okay.
I mean, bro, I'm telling you, we watch some serious news, and honestly, you guys are our favorite. Like my wife, she loves Channel 7. She loves the news team. She loves everything about the station. It's what we wake up to. We watch it at 4, watch it in the evenings. You know, it's a great station.
All right, we're going to make that into a promo.
That'll be our commercial.
That's for sure. We're going to run that all the time. I just want to follow up one thing on this because I'm dealing with it as a parent because my kids are a little bit older than yours, but when I hear the unsteadiness in their voices and almost to the point where I can tell that they're cracking and I'm not far away, how much kind of acting do you have to do to try to settle everybody else down, even though you yourself are feeling uneasy? You know,
you gotta kind of try to put on, right? Like I'm I'm very worried. But my kids are young, and the beauty in having young kids, especially young kids that are a bit sheltered, they can kind of go on with their lives. And I think the craziest thing that my kids see us watching the news, and they'll ask, they know what the coronavirus, and my daughter asked, she goes, so Dad, if you get the coronavirus, do you die? Then we had to like kind of explain it to her a little bit without telling her everything. Sure. I think after that, I don't know if it gave her a sense of relief, but she's kind of like not asked as much, you know, so that's a good thing that we were able to calm her a little bit in that way, but also tell her the truth. You know, I don't want to lie to her. You know, I don't want to tell her that if you do catch this virus, that there is no chance of death because of how old her grandmother is. You know, my mom's 76, and you know, she is the type of person that if she contacts this thing, it can really be dire for her. You know, she's got asthma, she's got some health issues, and we have to protect her from this virus.
Yeah.
Now, I know you have a large following. What would you tell your following? I know that, you know, UFC fans, they were still having events even fairly recently. So, like, what would your message be to the people about how to handle this?
You know, when this thing first happened, you know, we sort of looked at it like, okay, this is something, but we don't know exactly what it is. We will continue on business as usual. I believe that now we're at a point where we need to start protecting everyone, and it's, you know, you need to stay home. I mean, it's not that bad. Stay home as much as you can. Isolate yourselves. Let's stop the spread of this thing. You know, this is dangerous. I spoke to Dana White a couple days ago, and he was just telling me, you need anything, just let me know. You are your family. But I also spoke to him the day that the event ran, and I told him thank you, because what I wanted was normal. You know, I needed something to feel normal. And watching a fight on a Saturday felt normal. But now I understand that everybody is afraid, and now we all have to take a back seat and just try to deal with this thing before it becomes so big that we're playing catch up opposed to getting in front of it.
Now, I know we'll try to get to some fun stuff too,
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah. But, you know, your wrestling team, I believe, didn't CIF just happen very recently? So have you been in contact with them through this, like, as an educator, as a leader of men? Like, what kind of things are you talking about with those guys?
You know, I talk to my kids all the time. I did something the other day that I vowed to never do again. I asked them to play online gaming with me, and it was the most insane experience I've ever had. They're so stupid. The kids like, all I do is hear them yelling, where's everybody at? Where's everybody at? And I'm like, I told us we're supposed to meet somewhere, guys. Like in real life, meet somewhere so that we can go start the mission. But nobody goes to that place. And then all of a sudden in the headphones you hear, where you guys at? Where you guys at? I'm like, I told you exactly where we are. So it's like, that showed me a side of those kids that I realized, okay, I don't want. They had convinced me at the CCS tournament that I would love to play online gaming with them. That is not true unless we're playing sports. But I just tell them to be active. You know, jump on the treadmill. Most of them have them. Just work out as much as you can, but take a break. I mean, we are at Gilroy High School. We take this wrestling so serious that even as this, we're in this situation now with this quarantine and everything, stay at home, shelter, it's good for these boys to get away from this thing, because it is, I mean, it's everything. We don't stop. We wrestle all year. And sometimes you need to take a step back. And the state tournament was okay. I mean, we ended up 7th, but we were down about 40 to 50 points between Victor Jacinto and Jaden Gomez, both guys that were ranked top 4 in the state, out due to injury. So we're only 5 points out of 5th place without 2 of our best wrestlers. So we had a good tournament. My kids maxed out the points that we could have scored, and I was very proud of them.
Now, I know Larry has a question, but real quick, what game was this? Was this like Call of Duty? What were you guys playing?
No, it was Grand Theft Auto, and it was awful.
Okay.
Like, this Grand Theft Auto, hey, this Grand Theft Auto, they have this online gaming that they have created has allowed for this game to still be viable 8 years since it was made. This game was made in like 2013, but because of the online gaming, they just keep adding things, adding heists, adding little team opportunities that you just go on there and you continue to play it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's now to the point that you could start businesses and have essentially a whole criminal enterprise underneath you. It's unbelievable, but I'm awful at it. Every time I go outside of my office building, I get killed, and I'm done.
Well, Casey and I may start our own criminal enterprise. We're not sure if we're going to be online or offline, but we'll see how this
You
goes.
guys play online game and play it with me, so I can play with some people that would actually go where we're supposed to go and meet each other.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're good at following instructions. So let's just have some fun, because we covered a lot of heavy stuff here. What I should say also, I think it's really cool that a star of your magnitude, of your celebrity status in your sport, is still working with kids, because you could just be insulated in your own world and go, I'm doing my thing, but to give back to the community, I think, especially Gilroy's been through a lot in the past year, I think that's awesome. Now I want to ask you a technical wrestling question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, in a rear naked chokehold, nobody's naked. Why is it called a rear naked chokehold? That's technical stuff. I want to get deep into the sport here.
I'm going to tell you something here right now that I'm very embarrassed about. Is I don't know. I don't know why they added naked. Why not just be a rear choke? You're behind the guy choking him, but you're behind him.
Well, no, like Greco-Roman, right? Wasn't it like?
It seemed to be a rear choke.
Wasn't it back in the day, like the Roman days? Weren't they naked?
No, they weren't. No.
I think they wore something over their junk. I'm not exactly sure.
This is really deteriorating rapidly
this
here.
Tells you about our mental state.
Oh my God.
Go ahead.
Well, I think it has something to do with you could choke a guy with a gi if he was wearing.
That's what it is.
I think that's.
But no.
I think you knew the answer.
You're choking him with the arm, and you're not using the gi. So I guess that's what brings. That's why they called it that.
All right. Well, I'm really glad we got that settled. So, the sport of mixed martial arts. I always say this about MMA and about boxing. Man, it's really tough when you have to make a living getting hit in the face. And man, and you've been doing this for a long time. What drew you to the sport initially? I know when you were growing up, you were wrestling, but this is a whole different type of deal here, because you could be the best jiu-jitsu guy on the planet, but like Mike Tyson said, everybody got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Absolutely. I had friends that had started doing it, and they told me that it would be this new avenue to live a life that we wrestlers never thought imaginable. And man, I walked in there, I'd watched it for years, and I walked in there and Cain Velasquez broke my nose about 2 months into my training, and I was like, boy, this may not be for me, but I went back, right? And I went back and I went back, and I just the more I did it, the more I fell in love with the idea of pitting myself against another man that was trying to take me out. And it was like nothing excited me more, and I just kept going back, and I love it. I love the sport.
Well, you mentioned wrestling. Now
I'm a big wrestling
exactly
fan. I'm already locked and loaded on it. But you mentioned Cain. You got Brock over there. I know that my good friend actually launched and produces that WWE backstage show. So what is your kind of interest and desire in maybe following Cain down that road eventually?
Who's your friend that does the backstage show?
His name is Brad Weimer. Did you work with him at all?
He's at Fox. So I almost did the WWE backstage. I met with the guys 6 months before the show launched, and I was going to be one of the hosts because I am a massive WWE fan. But because I had just left Fox while working there, UFC Tonight and all the fights for 6 years, and now working at ESPN, it was such a weird thing, right? Because for a while I was a Fox guy. I was a guy that worked at Fox on air every single week for 4 or 5 years. Now I'm supposed to be that guy at ESPN, right? I'm the guy that does detail, all these shows. To go back and be on Fox again every week would be a little bit hard for them to look away from that connection, and it was just tough. But it was a big miss, not miss. It was a big. It was one that I really do hate not having. But listen, look at my Instagram right now from today, if you can, if you have your phone.
All right, I'm gonna pull it up.
Look at my Instagram. Look at the video I posted this morning in regards to. It will remind you of WWE. Look at it. You remember those vignettes?
Working on it.
Yeah, we're a little slow pulling this stuff up here, but we're getting there.
All right, got you.
But yeah, it's been
Oh, this is Mr. Perfect here.
You see this?
Yeah, that's Mr. Perfect style, right?
Whoa!
Yes, it is.
That's classic, man. I have, to this day, whenever I'm done chewing gum, I spit it out and smack it, just like Mr. Perfect always did.
I told him that on March 20th, a perfect athlete was born, and then they did the whole Mr. Perfect thing.
That's
Do you
great,
remember the
man.
vignette Mr. Perfect did back in the day? He kicked the football.
Yeah.
He threw the football. He played basketball. He hit a baseball. He was absolutely perfect. And I told him that, on this day, a perfect athlete was born.
I don't know how deep your wrestling knowledge goes, but like Bruce Pritchard, do you know who that is? The guy that's like Vince McMahon's right hand. He's the guy that produced all those vignettes.
For a while.
Yeah, he produced those vignettes, and he told this story one day on a podcast that had me rolling that Mr. Perfect just effed up all the time. It took so many takes, and it was like, it's just so funny how imperfect he really was. But those vignettes were just legendary. So I mean, like, what about like seeing Kane get in there, and I mean, on the flip side, Brock, wasn't he kind of mixing it up with you in the UFC before he finally went back to WWE? So I mean, like, you guys have been really close to crossing paths, right?
Yeah, I've known those guys forever too. I met Brock way back in 1998, so I've known him for a long time. He's always great when we go to the WWE. I mean, I would love to do something with those guys in some form or fashion. I'm just not exactly sure what that's going to be right now. I think when I retire after my last fight with Miocic, it will allow me to have a better idea and clear direction of what I'm going to do. I said this show launched last year, right, in 2019. I think the UFC started on ESPN in 2019. Mm-hmm. If I retire now, 2020, now we're 2 years removed from me being on Fox every week. Now you start to think, okay, this is the guy from ESPN. Now I start popping up on Fox doing shows here and there. That's a lot more acceptable for ESPN, I believe, than it was back then. So, everything's still on the table. We just got to see how everything shakes out.
So, I was curious, like, are you set? It's one more fight and then you're retired, and that's the deal? There's no, because in boxing, guys, they're retired until they're unretired. Always one more fight. There's always one more. I got one more payday.
I'm going to be done. I think that I wanted to be done before when I was 40 years old, but then I had back surgery that made me fight later than I wanted to. I wanted to fight March 3rd before my 40th birthday and walk away as the champion. But I had back surgery, so I waited to August, lost that fight, and now it's like, well, you got this trilogy with Miocic. You guys have to complete it. Right. I want to complete it. It makes all the sense in the world. He's not a young guy. He's about to be 38 himself. So it's like, it's not like I'm fighting some 28-year-old kid. I'm fighting a 38-year-old man, and I'm 41, right? So we're going to just mix it up, scrap it up, and then I'm going to head back to do it. Look, I've got a lot of things outside of the Octagon, as we said at the beginning of this thing, that I can focus on, and I believe that the opportunities will only get bigger once I'm fully retired from the sport.
So if you were to go the wrestling route, would you be a heel, or are you a baby face, or what are you going to be? What do you?
Look, my career has done this weird thing, right? Where When I first started, I was the Olympian. Everybody loved me. And then I got into this weird rivalry with Jones where everybody booed me. And then I steered into it, right? I was like, at first I was fighting him. I was like, please, what is going on? Why would you guys boo me? I didn't do this. I didn't do that. So they booed louder. And then I steered into the boos. I started making them boo me. And so they decided to cheer me. It's the weirdest thing in the world. It's like I started to love the boos. I said to him one time, I was in an Octagon at an interview. I said, they were booing me in Buffalo. I mean, they were booing me in Buffalo. Rumble Johnson had just retired. I like mocked, made, and said the same thing he did. And then they started, boo. I said, it's fine, Joe Rogan, boo me. I'm getting money and collecting championship belts. And they started booing even louder. And I was like, this is awesome. It was like the best. It was the best thing ever. It was awesome. And then I fought Jones again, and he beat me, right? And then he tested positive for steroids again. And everybody said, wait, maybe this dude ain't so bad. So then they started cheering again. It's been the craziest, thing. But I do know now, because I've been on both sides, I want to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
I want you to boo me when I go to the ring because it's always funner trying to piss people off.
Nice.
What was your favorite fight of all time? Who's the opponent that you enjoyed fighting or hitting the most?
And I enjoyed them. I enjoyed a lot of them. I enjoyed the Jones rivalry. I enjoyed the Miocic rivalry. I just enjoy getting pushed to the highest level. People go, oh, well, you lost to him. But that's okay because all the other guys you just beat them. And obviously I don't want to lose the fight, but it's like it makes me train better. It makes me more prepared mentally. It just really brings the best out of me. But yeah, man, I love the Jones fights. I felt like I was never more prepared. I love the Miocic fights. I feel like the first fight I was never better and more ready to make history. The second fight I was a little banged up. My back, I had surgery. I was a little banged up. No excuses, but I just love that he made the adjustment, right? From me pounding him for almost 3 rounds to him making the adjustment and winning the fight. Those are the types of things that get my blood boiling as a competitor.
Now, any era, any fighter, any sport or format, what would like your dream match be? It could be in the wrestling ring, it could be in the UFC Octagon. Like, who would you like to go with?
In fighting, I'd love to fight a Chuck Liddell, a guy that just changed the game, even though it was back in the day. But for me, I'd like to play a one-on-one basketball game with Michael Jordan.
Nice.
That's testing yourself at the ultimate level. Yeah. And if Jordan beats me 21-0, okay, I played Michael Jordan. I played Michael Jordan. He'll beat you. And you know what the thing about Jordan is? Jordan's that guy, right? Jordan was that guy that even though you're a fan and you're out there for the experience, he would put his foot on your throat and just step on it.
Yeah.
And I like champions like that. I like champions who are willing to go and compete to the highest level every time. So yeah, I want to play Jordan in a one-on-one basketball game at 5'11", while he's 6'6", and he's blocking all my shots, and he's shooting threes, and he's dunking, and I'm fouling him, and we're jawing at each other, and it's just those types of things are the things that kind of like gets me excited.
Yeah, I had a similar experience like that. It wasn't with the Jordan level, but after I got dunked on like 2 or 3 times, I was like, yeah, this was not a great idea. This was a college kid. But I down the same road, no matter what list that we look at, you're regarded as one of the best of all time. And so I wanted to just ask you, excluding yourself, one fight, if you could pick anybody in the Octagon, who would you want to see? Like if you had to put the Cormier family fortune on that, you could have Liddell, you could have George St. Pierre or BJ Penn or Anderson Silva in his prime, or Fedor or Couture. Give me one name.
I think all those dream fights, but I think we all wanted it when Anderson was in his prime and St. Pierre was in their prime. Man, imagine if we could have got those two to fight back then. They were one weight class apart, so it seemed like it should be doable. I think that's the one. I think that's the one we missed. Or when Fedor was the man and Cain Velasquez was healthy. And Cain Velasquez was like on that tear where nobody looked like they could stay. They could complete 2 rounds with him. That's those types of fights. Velasquez, Fedor, and St. Pierre versus Anderson. Those are the two that I would have died to see.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let's wrap it up. I'm so glad we've finally had the opportunity to get you. We'll look for you on TV more. I hope when we get past all this, we can actually sit down in the same room and do something. And like, don't be afraid. I mean, there's no reason. There's no reason. I mean, there's no reason. I'm 185. I mean, come on. Come on.
Hey, let me just say that you're only a couple of years older than me, so you could, if I can still do it, you can still do it. And I'm telling you, you look dangerous. You look like a dangerous man. You're fast, and quick. You're explosive. You're the type of guy that you do not want to be locked in an 8-sided team.
All right, we'll have to end on that. You're amazing.
I'm putting this up. I'm gonna run this 100,000 times.
Daniel, man, happy birthday. I'm so sorry you have to spend it with us clowns. Thank you so much for coming on. You're the best.
We love you. We love you. I hope to see you in person soon. All right, take care.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
With authority.